Hi there, it's time to get up to scratch. Today we're going to look at the looks blocks, the purple colored blocks over here. These blocks allow you to change what your program looks like, mostly your sprites and your backdrops. If you're not sure how the sprites and backdrops work, you can check out our video on Scratch Basics. Like the motion blocks, there are a few numbers I want to draw your attention to down here. This show button allows you to show and hide your sprite. There are blocks that do this too, and we'll go over those later. This size number represents percent. It starts at 100, but if you change the number, it will change the size of your sprite. Let's try it out if we put it at 50%. And we could make it even bigger by putting it at 200%. Let's put it back to its normal size. Again, there are blocks that can do this, and we'll go over them soon. The first set of looks blocks we're going to examine are the say and think blocks. They essentially do the same things, but with some minor differences. I'm going to pull in a when green flag clicked block to help demonstrate how these work. So the first one I can pull in, it says say hello for 2 seconds. And if I click the green flag, the cat says hello for 2 seconds and it disappears. I can change what it says however I want, and I can change the time that it says it for. So if I want to change it to 5 seconds, it's a bit overkill because it only takes probably about half a second to read the word hi, but you get the idea. The next block in the kind of series of 4 blocks is just the say hello block. Now what you'll notice is if I just click on that, it will say hello, and we can wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, but it won't really stop. If I press the stop button, it will disappear. So it will say that for the duration of the program. Now, if I put another one on there and I put say hi, what we notice is that it goes immediately to hi, because what happens is it says hello and then it reads the next line of code immediately, faster than our eyes can see, and it says hi. So that's one thing that we can do to get rid of the hello. The think blocks are essentially the same thing, but instead of doing a speech bubble that has the point kind of pointing to the cat, it will have a thought bubble, so the little circles there. So it's exactly the same, and the same goes for just the think block on its own. So that can be very useful if you want your sprite or other characters to say some things. The next blocks are the switch costumes blocks. If you watch the Scratch Basics video, you will probably know that you can change costumes up here, and this particular sprite has 2 different costumes. So when I click this button, it will change it to costume 2. Now note, at the end of this program, it is already on costume 2. And this is something to think about when you're doing programs, so that you want to set up your program at the beginning to be exactly like you want it to be. So in the motion video, we talk about putting your sprite where it wants to be. In this looks video, we're going to talk about making sure that your sprite is on the costume you want it to be. So I've put it back to costume 1 there. Now this block, next costume, will work a lot better when you are using the control blocks such as the repeat and wait blocks. But if I put that on here, every time I press the green flag, it's going to go to the next costume. And we can see that it kind of looks like it is running. We move on now to some blocks that change the backdrops. In this case, we only actually have one backdrop. So no matter what I pick, if I go to the next, previous, or random backdrop, it is still going to go to this blank stage. But if I add a backdrop, let's surprise ourselves and then choose a backdrop. Just going to choose the first one that comes to mind. And now what I can say is it can go to the urban. So it'll swap to that when I click. Now remember, you're not always using the when the green flag is clicked as your event. So certain events and certain things can trigger different backdrops coming in. The same thing goes to this, is that you can order with the next backdrop, you can have your backdrops ordered in a certain order. So you notice up here is that we've actually got 3 backdrops. I'm going to get rid of the blank one. So when we go back to the code and we go back to the sprite, every time we press the green flag, the backdrop switches to the next one. Now notice too that if you go to the backdrops, and I'm going to show you something really neat right now. I can drag this code into there, and I'm going to delete it from the cat. And if I go now to the backdrops, you'll see the code is in there. And it's probably good practice to put any code that you want for your backdrop in the backdrop coding area. And you can tell you're in the backdrop coding area by the sign up here. The next blocks that we're going to look at are the change effects blocks. Now there's a few different effects that your sprite can have. You've got the color effect, fisheye effect, whirl effect, pixelate effect, mosaic effect, brightness effect, and ghost effect. Now let's see what happens when we do that. We are changing the background, notably here, and all of a sudden it is not doing anything anymore. What we can do now is to clear that effect. We can do clear graphic effects. If we try, let's go and put some of these onto the cat, and let's see what each of these does. So when we change to the fisheye effect, so notice I'm clearing the graphic effects and then I'm applying the next one. So the fisheye one, and what if we change that by even more? Kind of looks like a fisheye there in the background. I notice that we've changed the color effect on the cat. Let's get rid of one of these. Going to get rid of the one in the background, and we're just going to look at the cat now. So we've looked at what the fisheye does, the whirl effect. And what happens if I do it by 50? So it distorts your sprite a little bit. The pixelate effect turns it into a very pixelated version. That could be interesting. Some old video games do that. Mosaic effect does something like this. Oh, it makes lots of mini ones of them. The brightness effect, I'm going to guess, makes it a lot brighter. And the ghost effect is probably going to make it look transparent. Now, these effects might be very useful for whatever you're going to do. It's up to you, but just know that you can use them. You can also set the effects to any value that you want to. So one way to do that would be to clear them, but you could set specifically the pixelate effect to 24. And then if you clicked it again, it wouldn't change. So depending on the use that you want, you can either change it or you can set it. And we'll look at ways that you can use those to change and set differences for a few different things, especially variables when we get to that point. When you start a program, you might want your sprite hiding. You might want your sprite to be shown. So if we use show, nothing really happens because it was shown already. But if I turn the sprite off like this, because maybe in the previous time the program ran, the sprite was hiding and the sprite will show up. So this kind of goes along with the blocks like the switch costume to and the put the, or what is the motion one, what is it called? Go to X and Y. Okay, so the show and hide are the very similar ones. Sometimes you might want your sprite hiding until it pops out or does some sort of effect later on. And so we can hide it as soon as the program starts. Let's show that block that again. Now another really interesting thing, and we're going to use this with a few different sprites. So I will surprise myself and add a new sprite. So we've got a laptop there. So notice how right now the laptop is in front of the cat. Think of this as a bunch of layers of clear plastic on top of each other, and you've got your sprites and your other objects all on different layers. Now this just reorders the layers. So I know I'm on the cat right now. So when I press the green button, it's going to go to the front layer. So it is on top of the laptop. Now I can also make it go to the back layer. And this might be a really interesting thing because you might want it to look like maybe your sprite is standing behind the laptop. And later on, maybe it wants to walk around and go in front of the laptop. You probably need to use movement blocks to do that, but just so that you know, you can change the layer. Now, it doesn't just have to be moving to the front or the back. You can change it by layers. Now, right now, we've only got 2 sprites, so there only is a front and a back layer. But if I add a third sprite there, so you can see right now we've got the sailboat on the top layer, the laptop in the middle layer, and the cat in the back layer. So if I do this, go forward 1 layer, then you can see that now the cat is in the middle, and the next time it is on the front. Same thing, I can make it go backwards 1 layer, or I can make it change however many layers I want. The last blocks, as we've seen in a few of the other ones, are these circular blocks. So they go inside some of the circular areas. For example, we could actually have the sprite say one of these things. So it could say the size. So it says 100 because that's the size. It could say the costume number. So it's costume number 1, or it could even say the costume name. So it says costume 1. It could say the backdrop number or the backdrop name. Now, these probably are not how you would use this. You don't often want the character saying what the name of the costume is, but it might actually be really easier when you're playing with variables later on to just plug those in if you need those in different blocks. That's all of the looks blocks. Hopefully now you can change how your sprite and backdrops look. If you haven't already, make sure to watch the videos on motion blocks and sound blocks. The next set of blocks to watch after that are the control blocks and the sensing blocks, before finally getting complicated with the operator and variable blocks. Until next time, happy programming! Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching!